I'd like to call the Tuesday, January 19, 2021 Papillion City Council meeting to order. Ms. Brown, would you please take the roll?
Sunday.
Here.
Mumgarden.
Here.
Gaines.
Here.
Glover.
Here.
Jaworski.
Here.
Klug. Here. Stubbe.
Here.
Engberg.
Here.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Flag over there. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do we have an affidavit of publication on file?
We do.
The current copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted the counter when you first walked in the door. So thanks for joining us tonight. We're going to be here for probably 6 to 9 months as City Hall's being renovated, and we got a couple of components of the sound system that are being enhanced to better handle a public meeting like this. So we can also have virtual meetings of the City Council as well, and get enough sound for all of the council members and the public hearing. It originally was built for about 5 microphones, more of a corporate training facility, so we're changing that up a little bit. So because of that, tonight and probably the next council meeting, we're a little limited on the sound. So I would ask that we not have side conversations in the audience, because it does carry. And council, if you could speak up a little bit loudly. We do have 2 recording devices, just so we have our legal record, but then back up to that, it is being videotaped as normal, so that'll be out for the public. And we also have a 360 recording device that has been tested and picks up almost everything in the room, so we have a good recording of the minutes as well. But other than that, the ambient sound in here, it's going to be a lot of voices, so if you could speak up when it comes to discussion. And because we don't have any type of queuing system for council, if you do want to speak, if you just kind of raise your hand, and I'll kind of use that as the visual cueing of maybe who got up first, and then I'll call on folks, kind of like we did on Zoom. So with that, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Councilwoman Klug, second by Councilman Sunday. Do you have any proponents or opponents? Any council discussion? Please vote, and we'll do a roll call.
Sunday.
Yes.
Mumgarden.
Yes.
Gaines.
Yes.
Glover.
Yes.
Jaworski.
Yes.
Klug.
Yes.
Stubbe.
Yes.
Engberg.
Yes.
8 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. The next 6 agenda items are all somewhat related, but they are different. They're public hearings, so I tried to do it all as one public hearing. Yes,
Administrative report.
I did it again. Thank you. Administrative report, please.
Thank you. I'll try to speak loud. I just have a couple of quick things. This year's League of Nebraska Municipalities annual Midwinter Conference will be held virtually in February. And please let either Kendra or myself know if you want to get registered for some or all of that. And I believe she sent out that information last week. The Nebraska Investment Finance Authority has monthly presentations on relevant topics. And this month, Mayor Black and Mark Sturzma presented on the topic of Papillion's Missing Middle project of Prairie Queen. Kendra sent out the link this morning, that presentation. They did a great job of representing Papillion and discussing a missing middle project that we're proud of in our community. And finally, the library is launching its 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten program on February 1st. The registration is open now, and this is a great program that encourages literacy while kids can earn free books. So if you know anyone who has kids who are 5 and under, encourage them to sign up for the program. Thank you.
Thanks. And the next 6 items are somewhat related, but they're different enough. I tried to see if we could do it as one public hearing, but I was told they're different enough. We actually have to do separate public hearings, so bear with us. Item E1, Ordinance 1914, an ordinance to approve the vacation of the unimproved part of the First Street right-of-way lying in the south half of the northeast quarter in the northwest quarter of the southeast quarter of Section 26, Township 14 North, Range 12 east of the 6 p.m. with title thereto retained by the City of Papillion. It's a public hearing. I'll open it. Do we have any proponents or opponents? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Item E2, Ordinance 1915, an ordinance to approve the conveyance of title for the unimproved part of the First Street right-of-way lying in the south half of the northeast quarter and in the northwest quarter of the southeast quarter, Section 26, Township 14 North, Range 12 East of the 6 p.m., Sarpy County, Nebraska, to be vacated by ordinance number 1914 from the city of Papillion to the Papillion, Missouri River Natural Resource District. We'll open the public hearing. Proponents or opponents? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. E3, ordinance in 1916. An ordinance to approve the vacation of the unapproved parts of Jefferson Street, Monroe Street, Beetle Street, Addition Street, and alley right-of-way lying within or between blocks 21, 22, and 23 in the northwest quarter of Section 26, Township 14 North, Range 12 East of the 6 p.m., with title thereto retained by the city of Papillion. Open the public hearing. Proponents or opponents? Close the public hearing. E4, ordinance 1917, an ordinance to approve the conveyance of title for the unimproved parts of Jefferson Street, Monroe Street, Beetle Street, Addition Street, and alley right-of-way lying within or between blocks 21, 22, and 23 in the northwest quarter of Section 26, Township 14 North, Range 12 East of the 6 p.m., Sarpy County, Nebraska, to be vacated by ordinance number 1916 from the city of Papillion to the Papillion, Missouri River Natural Resource District. Open the public hearing. Proponents or opponents? Close the public hearing. E5, ordinance 1918, an ordinance to approve the vacation of the unimproved part of Addition Street in the northwest quarter of Section 26, Township 14 North, Range 12 East of the 6 p.m., Sarpy County, Nebraska, with title thereto retained by the city of Papillion. Open the public hearing. Proponents or opponents? Close the public hearing. E6, ordinance 1919, an ordinance to approve the conveyance of title for the unimproved parts of Addition Street in the northwest quarter of Section 26, Township 14 North, Range 12 East of the 6 p.m., Sarpy County, Nebraska, to be vacated by ordinance 1918 from the city of Papillion to PW and RD Enterprises, Inc. Open public hearing. Proponents or opponents? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Item E7, ordinance 1920, an ordinance to rename Fall Creek Road abutting lots 407 through 421 Eagle Ridge to South Fall Creek Road. Open the public hearing. Do we have any proponents or opponents? Close the public hearing. E8, ordinance 1921, an ordinance to amend Papillion Municipal Code section 11712 to provide for amendments to fireworks sales applications to provide for an effective date. Open the public hearing. Do we have any proponents or opponents? Note for the council, we did get some communication, and I did ask that be printed off and be given at your table, so that'll be entered into the record. Close the public hearing. Item F1, ordinance 1895, an ordinance to approve a change of zone from R2, single-family residential medium density, to R4, multifamily residential for the property legally described as a replatting of lots 142 through 150 and lots 174 through 203, Sumter Crossing, a subdivision generally located on the southeast corner of South 114th Street and Schramm Road. The applicant's Boyer Young Development Company, Sumter Crossing replat 2. Is there a motion to approve ordinance 1895?
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Ingberg, second by Councilman Glover. Any council discussion? See none, please vote.
Sunday,
Yes.
Mumgarde,
Yes.
Gaines,
Yes.
Glover,
Yes.
Jaworski,
Yes.
Clute,
Yes.
Stube,
Yes.
Engberg,
Yes.
8 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Related item F2, resolution R210007. A resolution to approve a final plat for the property legally described as a replatting of lots 142 to 150 and lots 174 to 203 Sumter Crossing, subdivision generally located on the southeast quarter of South 114th Street and Schramm Road. The applicant's Boyer Young Development Company, Sumter Crossing replat 2. Is there a motion to approve resolution R210007? Motion by Councilman Stube, second by Councilman Clute. Any proponents or opponents? Council discussion? Please vote.
Sunday,
Yes.
Mumgarde,
Yes.
Gaines,
Yes.
Glover,
Yes.
Jaworski,
Yes.
Clute,
Yes.
Stube,
Yes.
Engberg,
Yes.
8 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Related, F3, Resolution R210008, a resolution to approve the Second Amendment to the Sumter Crossing Subdivision Agreement. Motion to approve Resolution R210008. Motion by Councilman Gaines, second by Councilman Stube. Proponents or opponents? Council discussion? Please vote.
Sunday,
Yes.
Mumgarden,
Yes.
Gaines,
Yes.
Glover,
Yes.
Jaworski,
Yes.
Klug,
Yes.
Stube,
Yes.
Ingber,
Yes.
8 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. That's all the regular agenda items. Next is committee reports. Public Works Committee met. Do we have any report out?
Ingrid.
Mr. Ingber.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the first time this particular committee's met, and the only item we had on the agenda this evening was a review and discussion regarding public improvements on East 2nd Street, North Jefferson. You might recall that there was some discussion about doing something with the alleyways there in the immediate area to clean it up and redo it more as an entertainment venue. We reviewed the work to this point. Staff went over that with us, and we had a lot of conversation. It sounds odd, but we had a lot of conversation about getting an agreement put together with all the owners in that area to use a communal type dumpster system. So it would make it a much cleaner look down there, along with all the other improvements to the parking lots. And there's going to be some bump outs and so forth. We also suggested that perhaps we look at making this project connected in some fashion with the entertainment district we've already established on the west side of 84th Street on 2nd Street and North Adams. And we'll try to look at that, see if we can do that. That way we can do both projects together, basically. Finally, after staff reviews it, we unanimously recommended they keep going with the project and the funding mechanism and so forth. Councilman Sunday suggested when we meet again to review the next step, perhaps we will meet at the library, and that way we're right close to the site. If weather permitting, we can go over there next week on site and view some of the changes and the sight lines and those types of things. That's all I have to report.
Thank you very much. So all the committees that have met since the last time, do we have any comments from the floor? Yes, sir. You come up to the podium. And if you'd state your name for the record once you get up there. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Jim Humphrey. I live at 1906 Windcrest Avenue, Eagle Ridge subdivision. As you all know, the pandemic has caused a lot of changes in our lives, and they will continue to affect changes probably for as long as 5 years or more with a lot of people. Papillion's been noted as being probably a middle income city, but with the pandemic and the loss of jobs and wages and other things, there's people that are suffering far worse than they would normally. In the recent budget thing that you guys sent out, you mentioned about how you had planned ahead and weren't suffering some of the consequences that perhaps some of our citizens are suffering at this point in time. On December 14th, I called City Hall, and a nice young lady who answered the phone gave me the information of who our ward representatives were. And that day I sent emails to both of those gentlemen. Unfortunately, I have not had the honor of a reply at this point in time, so I felt it was necessary to come before the council. What I asked them was to reconsider your ordinance on the ability for property owners to raise chickens. The reason for that was to help our citizens have access to affordable food. The letter read, due to the pandemic, it has raised several issues, including access to affordable food. I respectfully request Papillion consider permitting homeowners to raise 7 to 10 egg-laying chickens on their property. Roosters would not be permitted. I know Omaha and Bellevue do permit homeowners to raise chickens with no apparent issues. Papillion could and should designate guidelines as to the location of coops and other issues. This would help many families with a sustainable and affordable food source. Thank you for your consideration of this request. Like I said, at this point, I have not had the honor of a reply, so therefore I felt I had to come before the council, as I did not whether this communication had been presented to you. I would appreciate any consideration you would give.
Thank you very much.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Can I ask a procedural question?
Yes.
Okay, the citizen couches this as a reconsider the chicken ordinance. Okay, reconsider in our business means something that limits who can bring it up. Since that ordinance was unsuccessful, was defeated, and it's been, quite a long time and even a change in council, is it subject to the reconsideration rules?
No, I'll look to Mr. Thielen to clarify if I'm wrong, but a formal reconsideration of a vote would have to be either at the meeting where that vote was taken or announced right after and taken at the next one. So under like a Robert's rule, we couldn't do a reconsideration. We'd actually have to look at it as a new ordinance.
I recommend treating it as a new ordinance with the passage of time and the likelihood that what would be proposed is not going to match up with what was turned down the first time. If there's interest in that, I'd recommend that it be brought forward as a new ordinance.
Since I was the only one that I think voted for that ordinance, whether, what you're saying is I could bring it back up even though I was on the defeated side.
Right, the reconsideration rules wouldn't apply if it's a brand new ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Well, I would encourage you. I don't want to suggest that I would be the only one that might want to, but thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the floor? Yes, sir. Again, if you state your name for the record when you get to the podium.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Hi, Edward Weininger, and live in Walnut Creek. I just want to indicate my support for that same initiative. I know it's been, we've talked a little bit about human rights and civil rights and what the Constitution says, and I think man's ability to provide for his family and provide for his own sustenance is pretty clear in those documents, and so I think it would be a good thing to reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the floor? Council comments? Mr. Munger.
I've got two things. One is a request. With regard to the fireworks ordinance, I realize that in the past, the council has had very little to do with approving specific locations. Now we're talking about a process to allow people to change locations. Could someone on the staff in the next 2 weeks put together an email and send some information to all of us as to what impact does the location have on the city? Since it's not something that really comes in front of the city council, I don't know whether it's a big deal, little deal, when you change locations. So I just I would like to know what impact that would have on staff, if any. So could somebody send us that information in the next 2 weeks?
We'll just have them bring that to the next council meeting for council discussion or put it into the packet. Is that appropriate?
Just get us the information, so that we're, for me, I'd like to know that before I make a decision.
Get that noted?
Yeah.
Okay.
Another thing, I note in the newspaper that the governor has proposed a bill that would, if successful, would lead to a constitutional amendment that would restrict local government's revenue increases every year to 3%. That you could only, without getting a vote of the people, which of course is fairly cumbersome, you could only increase your revenue amount by 3%. I was wondering if our finance director or somebody could provide us information. What impact would that constitutional amendment have on us if it was adopted? And any information you want to give tonight would be just fine.
As far as tonight, I just want to ask one quick question of Mr. Thielen. I just want to be careful with open meetings because so we got a comment from council, but it's not a published agenda item. Is it appropriate that a staff member responds to the question?
it might be best if we provide that information to you directly outside of the hearing, since we haven't teed this up as a.
Have it sent to all
agenda
council members.
item on
Okay,
the
well,
board.
I'll just make a comment that I gathered some information, and I think, in my uneducated, math-challenged way, I think that amendment would have created a problem for us multiple times in the last 5 or 6 years. And I would just encourage, I'm not sure why the governor thinks that that's a necessary thing. I'm not sure if he's looking at us for that. I'm not sure what the legislature will do with that, but I would encourage you and city administrator to make sure that in the Sarpy City's discussion and in the legislative packet that comes along, that proposed amendment is brought up and discussed, and then we'll get the information as to what does it mean to us, and am I correct with that review of the information.
Okay. And then just real quick for the public, since it's televised, it's a little educational. The question I'd asked Mr. Mumgard wanted a staff member to respond. The Open Meetings Act is pretty specific that we can only talk about items that were on a published agenda so the public knows what we're talking about or not talking about. And we do have this open comments from the floor and the council, but that is because those were not published agenda items. Generally, we can't get into a discussion on that item. Otherwise, we'd be violating the act. So that was the council member's free to make a comment, but then to start the dialogue was the question. So just a little education. Any other council comments? Mr. Ingber.
On a more positive note, I guess, I want to take a moment to acknowledge and thank the city administrator, Amber Powers, and Deputy City Administrator Bill Green, and Sean with the building department, and the whole staff, but those three in particular, Bill specifically, they did a lot of moving the entire city hall and to get this ready for tonight in very short notice. And what they did is absolutely amazing, and I just wanted to acknowledge that. Thank you all.
Appreciate it. Any other council comments? Last couple of weeks, main thing was just United Cities. Again, the legislature is in session now, and because of COVID, the update I had, I think it was yesterday, we're at the point in the legislative session where bills are being introduced. I think they've got the first 10 days to introduce bills, so they're coming in pretty fast as far as bills. We do try to keep an eye on every single one that's introduced, just to understand if there's any impact to municipalities and if it's something we want to take a position on. And so we'll be figuring that out as the 10 days wraps up. But every bill then in the legislature is supposed to get a hearing. And what the speaker said, I think yesterday, because of COVID, he's changing the hearing schedule a little bit, where usually they only have hearings in the afternoon. He's going to run hearings in the morning and the afternoon. And then he's going to limit how many people come into the room. And he's only going to publish his committee, they're only going to publish their committee agendas, I think about a week ahead, if I remember right. Usually they give a lot more notice than that, but because of COVID, or there are going to be people there or not, they wanted to pull it pretty close to the deadline. And so I say that to say, we may have to react pretty quickly to taking positions or understanding a bill that's getting ready to have a hearing. Because again, usually we have a lot of lead notice that they're going to be talking about something, and we may have a week or less notice to take a position on something. So if you're watching the legislature and there's any bills of specific interest, make sure we're aware of those so we can have those kind of on a high alert. And then so far, I think they're going to try to keep to the general same agenda they do with the legislature on the floor to allow for debate in the bills, but the speaker's kind of reserving a lot of rights to change the rules as they go along with COVID. So just a long thing to say we're watching it, but if you've got a specific bill you're interested in, make sure Amber or I know what that legislative bill is, and then we'll keep a specific eye on it. The only other thing I do want to thank Mr. Sturzma again. I was invited to present on that knife missing middle webinar. Mark Reilly is the expert on it, so I quickly invited him to present with me. And then by the end of it, he was doing the presentation and I made a few comments. So Mark, thank you again for leading that. I think we said I think NIFA told us there were about 160 people in that webinar from across the state. So a lot of people are watching and learning this project. So thank you again, Mark, for all of your expertise. Any other council comments? We do have a closed session tonight. And again, just for education for anybody that might be watching, there's only about 2 or 3 reasons that the city council can go into a closed session. Generally, everything we do is out into the open. But if we're doing anything in relation to negotiations, like land negotiations or union negotiations, obviously you don't want to tip your hat of your negotiating spot. So we can go behind closed doors to talk about negotiation strategies. And that's what we're going to be doing tonight, is that topic. And the other one, which I don't think we've done in about 10 years, is if we have a personnel item and we're talking about an individual, obviously you don't want to hurt their reputation, so we do have a right to go behind closed session for that. But when we go do closed session, we have to take a vote to go into closed session. And then when we're in closed session, no votes can be taken, it's just discussion. We can't take a vote to take a position. That has to be out into the public realm, so no votes are taken. And then we can only talk about what was in that closed session. If we get off topic, anybody in that meeting is required by law to try to raise a hand and say, hey, you're off topic. And it's actually a misdemeanor crime if we talk about anything else. So with that, is there a motion to go into closed session to protect the public interest to discuss land acquisition and potential litigation? Motion by Councilman Glover. Second by Councilman Stube. Any proponents or opponents? Any council discussion? Please vote.
Sunday,
Yes.
Mumberg,
Yes.
Gaines,
Yes.
Glover,
Yes.
Jaworski,
Yes.
Clute,
Yes.
Stube,
Yes.
Engberg,
Yes.
8 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. I'll state for the record, the purpose of the closed session is only to discuss land acquisition and potential litigation. The closed session will include the mayor, the city council, city administrator, deputy city administrator, deputy city engineer, the city attorney, and the city clerk. We will go to another room for the closed session, so if people want to stay here, they're free to. The only other thing we'll do once we come out of closed session, we'll take a motion to adjourn. We don't have any other agenda items.